Welcome to the From Imposter to Empowered podcast. I'm your host, Jill Perrick, mindset coach and imposter syndrome expert, and I'm here to tell you that imposter syndrome isn't a life sentence. It's just a dysfunctional way of thinking. If you feel like your ideas are unoriginal, that your message isn't necessary or important, or like you're a complete and total fraud, then you've come to the right place. Time to kick your inner imposter to the curb and create life-changing results for you and your clients. Let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome back to the From Imposter to Empowered podcast. I'm your host, Jill Perrick, business mindset coach and imposter syndrome expert, and it is October. And first of all, I want to say that I can't believe it's almost a year since my childhood home burnt down and our cat passed away. It feels kind of surreal, but the good news is that my family is coming out on the other side of that and their new house is being rebuilt. So my parents are very excited and that should be done in May. So I'm super excited for that. I will put pictures up on my Instagram. I routinely will update you guys in terms of how the house is coming, but it's going to be beautiful and I'm so happy for my parents. And that's where we have the majority of our holidays as well for our family. So it's really exciting that we're going to be making new memories in that house. And I just can't wait. And I'm excited for them to get the fuck out of my grandma's basement because I love my parents so much, but I would not want to live with them again. And unfortunately, my parents had to move in with my dad's parents. So they're all going a little crazy. That's just expected, right? So now that it's October, we are headed into 2022 in only a couple of months. And the last enrollment of the Worthy Woman Method for 2021 is coming up in November. I wasn't sure if I was going to launch again, but I really wanted to bring on another group of women to join this amazing program before we took some time off for the holidays, right? Because I think that there's these unspoken and spoken rules in the online space where there's certain times where you should sell, like you shouldn't sell in the summer and things don't work in the holidays. And I think that that's just a bunch of bullshit. And you can work your business whenever. It doesn't matter what time of year it is. It doesn't matter what's happening. There are always people looking for services, looking to improve their lives. And I think that if you're around too many people who have those same thoughts about the holidays or about the end of the year or whatever, you start to believe that that's the ultimate truth, when in reality, it's not written in stone and people can buy at any given time. I remember when I was on holidays last year and I took like 12 days off of like all technology in terms of like social media, everything off of my business. It was really great. And during those 12 days, I got 2 passive course sales for my course, the From Imposter to Empowered course. And I was like, oh shit, like I wasn't even doing anything. And people were investing in their mindset, investing in their brain and thinking about that stuff. So I decided to ditch the rule book and we're going to launch again. We're going to launch in the beginning of November. And this is the place to be for your entrepreneurial mindset. This is the place to be for your imposter syndrome, for the fear, for the doubt that is holding you back from getting dollars in your business. So you trade doubt for dollars in the Worthy Woman Method. And this is my lifetime access group program. So once you're in for life. There's weekly coaching, there's a Slack community, there's client gifts and virtual events and in-person events that are going to be happening in 2022, and it is the most healing and empowering place on the internet. It is such an amazing community of women, and we come together each week and we coach on all things online business in terms of content and selling and charging and all the fear and doubt and imposter syndrome that comes up around those things. Because when we're on our phones and when we're socially selling and when we're doing all the things we need to do for our online business, we are very intimate with our thoughts and very intimate with our emotions. So if those things are out of whack, if we're beating ourselves up, treating ourselves a certain way, not allowing ourselves to feel our emotions properly, then you and your business are going to be a mess. So the link is in my show notes for the wait list. You can go and sign up there. If you sign up there and decide to enroll, you will get $222 off of your enrollment. And I can't wait to see you over there. So today in my notes app, because I write really sporadic, crazy notes in my notes app when I get inspired ideas, we talk about goal setting a bit. And a couple episodes back, I have talked about imposter syndrome affecting your goal setting. But this is something that has been coming up a lot for my clients inside of the Worthy Woman Method, who you'll be hearing from on the podcast, by the way, later this month. I'm really excited for them to come on and talk about themselves and talk about how much they love the method. But comparison when looking at other people making money in the online space is definitely something that happens a lot because we are only seeing that highlight reel. So we are only seeing the highlight reel of somebody coming up and being like, hey, I made 10K in 10 days or whatever. And we've talked about this before on the podcast in terms of how much that is really just a highlight reel and how much people put a lot of emphasis on that, because even if you consciously hear me say that's just the highlight reel, you're still thinking to yourself, I'm not good enough and it's not happening for me. What's wrong with me? So I want to just shed some light on this a little bit. Now, this isn't comparison to anybody else. This was comparison to myself. I am making the same amount of money, about $15,000 average, roughly a month, in my business. And I was making that last year at this time. And for a couple days, I had these thoughts running in the back of my mind being like, how come I'm not satisfied? Like, what's going on right now? Like, I'm making really good money. What's going on? And I realized after doing some self-coaching and talking to my coach that I was comparing myself to last year's Jill, who was basically making the same amount of money. And I was thinking to myself, how come I'm not making more? And it's interesting because these thoughts are only coming from a filter of the online coaching industry. They're coming through the filter of you should be constantly increasing your income. You should be constantly working towards upping it, because that is the culture that we have created in the online space, is that you're doing something wrong if you're not constantly increasing your income. And I just want you to think about it, like how many industries and places do we put that much emphasis or pressure on ourselves with? When I worked at my government job, I made $3,000 a month, and I never expected to make more than that because that was just my income. And I didn't beat myself up when I got to the end of the month and thought, oh, you only made $3,000 this month, Joe. Wow, what's wrong with you? And it was because I was familiar with the culture and the way of doing things. Whereas with the online space, we have a different set of thoughts and beliefs in terms of how things are supposed to work and what's supposed to happen. And therefore, I was then deducing that I wasn't good enough. So I was making the same amount of money in my business now as I was last year. And I was beating myself up because it didn't look like continual growth. And then even deeper in the back of my mind, I was saying, why would my clients want to learn from me when I haven't increased my income over the last year? Like, I'm basically in the same spot. And wow, when you really uncover those thoughts, you realize how bullshit they are. But if you don't actually become aware of them and look at them and write them down or verbally say them, they're going to keep recycling in the back of your mind. It's like you're on a train and you see the things pass and it's there. The trees are there. You're aware of them, but they're still just kind of in the background, but they're still impacting your view. They're still impacting your vision. You know that they're there without really digging into them, right? And the funny thing is I am making way more profit this year than I am last year. I maybe profited $1,000, and I can't remember if I was talking about this on the podcast before, but I think it's just really important to note how different I am now in terms of my thoughts and beliefs about myself, about my audience, about my clients, about my business in general. I mean, guys, I literally left my full-time job. This time last year, I was making $15,000 a month, and I was terrified it was going to all go away, and I had my full-time job, and I was like, there's no way that I'm going to be able to leave my job even though I was making the same amount of money now. That is not an external shift. That was an internal shift. That was an internal shift inside of me in terms of my thoughts and beliefs. And I'm profiting even more now because I don't feel the need to outsource every little thing in my business to a big team that I don't need right now. because that was how I thought I was solidifying my legitimacy. That's how I thought that I was solidifying my safety in business. Oh, if I have a whole team I have to report to, then I have to do my work. There was so much icky thoughts there. And I think this is just proof that, like, it doesn't matter how accomplished somebody looks from the outside. They have a whole host of thoughts and feelings on the inside. I'm not saying that somebody can't be happy, because I was happy then and I'm happy now, but nobody has it all together when it comes to their business. And I think I'm pretty transparent about that with my clients and with my audience on Instagram and with you guys and with my email list. But nobody has it all together. And I have these thoughts as well. So I was beating myself up because it hasn't been continuous growth. But the results I'm getting are so much better. My profit margins are higher. And acknowledging this silenced those thoughts. Literally, it took one perspective shift and I was like, oh, damn, I'm profiting so much more, and what the fuck is up with continuous growth? It is literally just a culture that we've created online. And I used to have this fear of my clients coming to me and not getting immediate results, or not getting mind-blowing, like 100K in 2 months types of results, but it was because I was creating that culture and that expectation in my mind in terms of wanting to be good enough. And what I was negating was how much my growth has been slow and steady. Yes, in 2019, I made $12,000, and in 2020, I made $130,000. So that is a really big jump, but the progress was gradual. I made $2K a month, and then it went to $1K, and then it went to $5K, and then $8K, and then $10K, and then $15, and then it went back down to $10, and then $9. There were a lot of months where I was going up or down, really trying to figure out my groove. But the growth, if you really looked at it over the last year and a half, has been slow and steady, just like everything else. And the thing is, we also have to look at our expectations in terms of what other industry do we put so much pressure on ourselves to achieve these 6-figure years and these $1 million years, because we're just seeing what everybody else is doing, or we're zeroing in on a couple of the anomaly people who are talking about their best results ever, and we are thinking this is the norm, I don't match up to the norm, or the average, I'm not good enough. When in reality, most people are working towards that slow and steady growth. Most people are making $2 to $5K a month to $10K a month. They're working their way up. They're increasing as they go. It is slow and steady. And guess what? When you are fully committed to your business, you're not stressed out about the slow and steady growth, because you know all your goals are going to happen eventually. There is no need to put an arbitrary date on your success, because the people who do that, I know in the back of their mind, are telling themselves, if I don't achieve X by this date, it's going to be bad. They're either going to tell themselves that they're not good enough, they're going to be disappointed in themselves, utilizing their goals against themselves as weapons. They're going to tell themselves that it's not working out, and they almost use it as an out. They almost use it as an exit door in terms of, if I don't achieve this by this date, I guess it means that I'm not worthy. I guess it means that I'm not good enough. But that is such a perfectionist mindset when it comes to setting your goals. It's either perfect and it's working really quickly and it's all great, or it's not good enough. And I want you to kind of sit back and hear this, is that when somebody is like that, I wonder about their own experience with perfectionism, in terms of they're trying to be perfect so they can be good enough. They're trying to achieve the goals with money, or trying to put a very unrealistic timeline on their goals to prove their worth, to show their worth, if not to anybody else, but to themselves. So they're looking at what everybody else is doing. They're thinking, oh my God, you know what, Jill, if you can't achieve that in 6 months, then it's just evidence that you're not good enough. And I know it comes from negative self-talk. Now, I am all for setting big goals. I am all for doing really fucking amazing things. I have clients who have achieved amazing things in a short amount of time. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but there's also nothing wrong with slow and steady growth, and that's actually more normal than you think, right? So you might be saying to yourself, well, Jill, you made $12,000 in 2019 and $130 in 2020. But I've said this before on the podcast. There's a process to making chai. And I saw this on TikTok. There's a process to making chai. And I'm going to butcher this, but it is basically the process of making chai is very uneventful, and there's a lot of stored energy before the chai is good. There's a lot of waiting around until the chai is perfect. And all the results that you're seeing me achieve now are the result of me working towards that slow and steady growth, of me consistently showing up when no one gave a fuck, of me doing content and working on my mindset and taking care of myself and investing in myself. And for a very long time, I had the same thoughts of, this isn't working, I'm a failure, etc. But I kept going, and I got the help I needed on my mindset. I worked on those internal beliefs, and I'm always still working on myself. But it was stored energy for the breakthrough. Yes, $130,000 after making $12,000 the year before is a lot of money, but I had been working towards that for 2 years before that, investing and not seeing any return, even though I see the return now. You know what I mean? And I think that impatience of I'm not seeing the immediate return, or things aren't immediately happening for me, I want you to kind of zoom out. If this is happening for you, what are you telling yourself about the end result? Are you saying, I'm impatient with my results because things aren't happening, and if things aren't going to happen, then I'm not going to do this anymore? Because you have to be fucking committed to this business. You have to be so committed to this process of showing up for yourself and showing up for your audience and showing up for your potential clients and your current clients if you have them. You have to be committed, and that means commitment through the emotions that you're feeling, commitment through the shitty thoughts, and commitment through investing in yourself, even when you don't fucking want to. I think that it's beautiful that there are people in the industry who are really like calm and gentle and like take care of yourself and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like that too, but I'm also a hard ass with my clients. I'm also like, listen, this isn't your business's fault that you're having a bad fucking day. But it's like any other job. Are you going to show up regardless? Are you going to, of course, take care of yourself if you need a break? I recommend that to everybody. Take your vacations, take your breaks, take your time, but then get back to business. And I'm going to do a whole separate episode on that relentless commitment and devotion to your business. But I think that we have these goals and these rules that we put on ourselves as a way to prove that we're not good enough, as a way to prove that, oh, because it didn't happen in this time frame, that must mean that I'm not good enough. But you only fail if you quit. And we're not quitters, especially inside of the Worthy Woman Method. And that is why it is lifetime access, because consistent and steady growth is what we're all about inside of the method. It doesn't mean that big goals aren't possible. It means that we work towards them while still appreciating the journey that we're on and still achieving bit by bit to have that life that we want, to have the business that we want, to intentionally create an emotionally resilient mind, an entrepreneurial brain that never gives up and is constantly working towards the success that she is trying to create. That is the embodiment of the Worthy Woman. So you just heard Hugo. He's like, Mom, come feed me. What's going on? So if you are interested in joining the Worthy Woman Method, you can go to the link in my show notes and sign up for the waitlist. We are reopening the doors in early November. And if you get on the waitlist, you will save $222 on enrollment. There also might be some surprises embedded into the waitlist, so get your butt on there. And this is for, again, coaches and service providers, and it is a lifetime access group coaching program. All right, guys, I'll see you next week. Talk to you later. Thanks so much for listening to the From Imposter to Empowered podcast. Check out the show notes to get started on your free 3-day challenge to overcome your inner imposter. Once you're done listening today, screenshot this episode and share it to your Instagram story, tagging me at YourCoachJill so I can share it on my page. See you next time.